Welcome back to the United Stand. Loads of updates on today's afternoon show. Ederson from Atalanta, Manchester United have been chasing him for a long time, but a new price has been set, a pretty high price for Manchester United to pay. Should they do that or should they look at other targets? Should a midfielder actually be a priority position for Manchester United? If you watch the West Ham game, it should be, in my opinion. Also, Semenyo. This name just keeps coming back around. It's clear as day that Amorim wants to strengthen them number 10 positions. Semenyo, Cunha, and Mbeumo, Simmons, lots of names being spoken about, but we've got an update on Semenyo and an update on Cunha as well. That deal seems to be stalling. Why is it stalling? Is Cunha suddenly looking at the table and thinking, actually, might pivot to a different club, or are Manchester United working out a way to negotiate that deal? Got a big update on Cunha to bring you. Get your comments in. Let us know your thoughts down below. Oh, also as well, a new goalkeeper, Simon Stone from the BBC, has been speaking about a name that he's been given to what Manchester United could go for in the summer, what goalkeeper they want and could move to try and sign to compete for that number 1 position off Andre Onana. Get your comments in, smash a like on the video. I tell you what, Manchester United might be in 16th place, but Manchester, the sun is out, it's shining. We've got a Europa League final to look forward to. I'm trying to be positive, and one thing we do need to do, I'll reiterate it, is be strong in the summer transfer window. Will we be strong in going out and paying the money that Atalanta wants for Ederson? That is the question. Also, I wonder to myself, where is all this money coming from? Semenyo's been quoted at around 70 million, 62.5 for Cunha. It's going to be more. I'll bring that update in a minute. A new goalkeeper, a new striker. I mean, no wonder we're going for Delap. We need to save money somewhere, especially considering, we could be broke by Christmas, according to Sir Jim. Anyway, let's start off on the Ederson news. So it's coming out that new contacts are taking place about Ederson to Manchester United. New contacts are taking place, but United's 42 million proposal from last year will need to be improved if they are to sign Ederson from Atalanta. Now, and I've just seen a comment in the chat from Malp saying, interested FC. That is what Manchester United are at the moment. It's funny, isn't it? Because with Liverpool, they just get transfer business done so seamlessly. I remember that summer when they signed McAllister, just as soon as the transfer window opens, they're paying the release clause, they go and get him in, he's signed. Today we got from Fabrizio Romano that Liverpool want to sign Frimpong. Talks have already begun, they've advanced. I won't be surprised if they've wrapped Frimpong up by this time next week. I thought we were moving quickly with the Cunha deal. It's already stalling. Manchester United do seem to be interested FC. If and buts FC. If we win the Champions League, I wish. If we win the Europa League, if we do that. But Ederson, I know Goldbridge is a massive fan of Ederson from Atalanta. Physical, gets around the pitch really well. When you talk about upping the levels of intensity in our squad, Ederson would definitely do that. He is a midfielder that reaches the physical demands of a Ruben Amorim system. I understand why Ruben Amorim would want him, and I understand why Manchester United want him. We've been after Ederson for a long time. However, me personally, I would be reluctant to pay over the £42 million that we've already tried to go in for Ederson last summer. Do you remember that talk last summer? It's like, if Casemiro moves, it looks like Manchester United are going to go for Ederson. That Brazilian connection, he's a holding midfielder. I mean, he can play in that pivot really well. They're going to go for him. Casemiro never ended up going. I don't think Casemiro will go this summer either. But it's as clear as day that we do need to invest in the midfield department. I look at us against near enough every single team that we play, and our midfield gets dominated. The only way that our midfield survives, really, is if we play at Ugarte and Casemiro pivot in the Europa League. And we know the Europa League isn't as physical, and the teams aren't of the same quality as the Premier League. The Premier League is way more demanding, and Manchester United's squad as a whole keeps getting eaten alive due to their physicality and the physical demands of the Premier League and the physical demands of a Ruben Amorim system. In terms of physicality, Ederson absolutely ticks the boxes. I'm not sure, though, that he's the midfielder that Manchester United should be going all in on in terms of money. He definitely does add something to our squad, and I think he's an improvement on some of the players we've already got. But I think Manchester United are absolute midfielder that can play with his back to goal, receive the ball off the back four, is press resistant and can progress the ball up the pitch. We are desperate for a Frenkie de Jong type midfielder. And I know the Frenkie de Jong word is one of them words that we don't like to use in the United stand, because remember the 90% club? Remember when John Murta was trying to hold him hostage at the airport when we were trying to sign him from Barcelona? And that's not going to happen. Frenkie de Jong is not going to happen. He's absolutely killing it for Barcelona. Barcelona are miles ahead of us. But we need that sort of press-resistant player. I've seen people in the chat talking about Stiller. I've seen people in the chat talking about Wharton, is that his name? Wharton from Crystal Palace. I just had a brain fart then. That's the type of midfielder that Manchester United need, in my opinion. And look, we overpaid for Ugarte. By the way, get your comments in, get your super chats in, get your thoughts in. I know there's a lot of comments going round. I know there's so much talk going on about Ugarte, how that was a failed signing, Manchester United never should have got in. There's a reason why PSG wanted to get rid of him. Why did we fund João Neves, who is 10 times the player, and PSG are fantastic without him, etc, etc. I think people are going way too hard on Ugarte. Different players work differently under different managers and in different clubs. I mean, Salah and De Bruyne didn't work out at Chelsea, yet the two are the best ever Premier League players for Liverpool and for Manchester City, unfortunately our rivals. Players work out differently at different clubs, under different setups, under different managers. Ugarte's had a couple bad games, a few bad games. In the West Ham game he was awful, I'm going to be honest. But there absolutely is attributes there that we can utilise, and I think he'll be a key member of our squad. Look, I want Manchester United to be competing for Champions Leagues. I want us to be competing for Premier Leagues. We're absolutely miles off it. And say if Manchester United were in a title race, would I expect Ugarte to be our starting midfielder? Probably not. But I absolutely think he can be a squad player. And you need a squad. To win titles, to win big things, you need a squad. And he can offer us something that not any of our other midfielders can. I think he wins the ball back really well. He creates good turnovers for us. And he adds energy and passion into that midfield. And I think there's a lot of good that Ugarte does. You've just got to try and cover up his weaknesses and coach that out of him. He's not the best passer of the ball. Keep it simple. Move it sideways. Once you get it, move it to somebody who can pass it. There's absolutely a job that he can do for Manchester United. I think people have been way too harsh on him. But to complement that sort of player like Ugarte, that energetic midfielder that is winning the ball back and is that warrior in the middle of the pitch, who we know isn't really press resistant and isn't the best passer, I think to complement him, what we should be looking to bring in is a midfielder who is extremely comfortable on the ball, is great at getting it off the back four, can progress it up the pitch, progressive carries, progressive passes through the lines, and can get Manchester United up the pitch. And we just don't have a midfielder that can do that at Manchester United. We're lacking of it. The closest we probably had was Scott McTominay, but he wasn't really press resistant, but he was a good carry of the ball. Mainu is pretty good at it, to be honest with you. Mainu is pretty good at it, but I don't think Amorim really sees him as that deep line midfielder. I don't know if he thinks he's got maybe the physicality for it. I actually think Mainu could do that role. I think Mainu is the closest we've got to it in terms of press resistance and being able to turn and being able to get out of trouble and progress the ball up that pitch. But we're lacking that sort of midfielder. Ederson, for me, isn't the midfielder that I've been going spending 50, 60 million pounds on. However, I think if another club did it for what they needed, I think he's a good player. I think he's got attributes. I think if Manchester United already had a midfielder like that, I'd be happy to go in for Ederson. I think he's got really good qualities. However, for me, he just wouldn't be my top pick, to be honest with you, to solve Manchester United's midfield problems, considering the qualities that we have in our midfield already through the current players we've got. But get your chats in. You're more than welcome to disagree with me. I know Goldwich absolutely loves Ederson and would sign him tomorrow. I'm a little bit more on the fence about it, to be honest with you. Tushar says, we need 4 new midfielders and need to remove Eriksen, Casemiro, Mainu. Ederson alone won't do anything. I don't think we need to remove Mainu, to be honest with you. Eriksen and Casemiro, yes. Mainu, no. I think just because Mainu hasn't adapted to the system straight away, he's 20 years old. Have a bit of patience. Look at how good he was last season. Look at what he did for England. Look at what he did for United in a cup final against City. Mainu is a fantastic player. He's gone through not the best run of form, and he's not managed to get to grips with Amorim's system yet and get himself in that 11, but Cream rises to the top. He's 20 years old. He's shown absolute quality. You know, 20-year-old isn't supposed to come in and be 90 minutes every single game at United straight away. Like, give him a bit of time. Mainu's shown the quality that he's got, 100%. We've got Simon Heron says, oh, no, I'm not reading that one out. Mr. N says, Ghana is better than Mainu at this system. I'm not completely convinced by that. And the reason I'm not completely convinced by that is because, smooth transition here, Manchester United absolutely are in the market for a new number 10 in the summer, if not two. We have been linked to multiple players to play that 10 role under Amorim. And if you cast your minds back, everybody, cast your minds back. When Amorim first got the job, I remember Fabrizio Romano doing an update over Amorim and what his thoughts are on the squad. And he says Manchester United will move heavily for number 10s and a striker in the summer. Number 10s. And we're wrapping up this Cunha deal. I still think we're gonna do Cunha. But since we've been getting into the Cunha deal, and I do have an update on that I'll bring in a second, and it looks like we're going to wrap that Cunha deal up, he's going to play left-sided 10, right? Manchester United, since then, it's come out through multiple different outlets and some very reliable ones that we are holding talks for Mbeumo, and that Ruben Amorim and Manchester United really like Semenyo from Bournemouth. We've also been linked to Simmons as well. I don't think Simmons is going to happen, to be honest with you. I think that's just, you know, an easy name to link Manchester United to. We've had that link before. I think he's way too expensive for what you would get out of Simmons. He's a good player, but I just don't think we'll go for him. However, Mbeumo and Semenyo multiple times have been linked to Manchester United. I think Telegraph was the latest one with Mbeumo. Mbeumo or Mbeumo, I think the correct way is Mbeumo, to be honest with you. And Semenyo is someone that Ruben Amorim likes, and we've been linked to multiple times. There's been yet another update on Semenyo today, and there's more reports coming out this morning of talks beginning with Semenyo, and we understand that he's on the list, as well as Cunha, Mbeumo, Simmons. He's on that list, and he's definitely one to watch. And Samsey Reports also put out multiple clubs looking at Semenyo, as reported a few months ago. Multiple Premier League clubs looking at Semenyo. However, interested and linked FC strikes again. I can't understand where the money is coming from to sign Cunha for over 60 million, and it could be looking more like 70 when you add the add-ons on from the update we've just got. And you can sign a Semenyo or an Mbeumo, which is going to be another probably 50, 60. I mean, Bournemouth were quoting 70 million for Semenyo, which is absolutely ridiculous. Are we spending over £100 million on two number 10s? And if we are, that means that we've definitely got to sell either Mainu or Garnacho, 100%. Because we won't be able to afford it, for one, and it's their position under Amorim. Like, that's to me is if you go and sign a Cunha and an Mbeumo, or a Cunha and a Semenyo, there is no way that both Mainu and Garnacho survive this summer at Manchester United. There's just no way. However, when the Mbeumo news broke, I think it was over the weekend from the Telegraph, they said it was separate to the Cunha deal and wouldn't affect it. Semenyo we've been continually linked to, even though we're close to wrapping up a deal with Cunha. Ruben Amorim wants more quality in his front three. He wants players that can play his system in that front three. Just better footballers that are Premier League proven, can fit the pace and the physicality of the Premier League, and are also clinical and creative. That's what we're looking at here. Semenyo, Mbeumo and Cunha are three of the most successful forward players in the Premier League this season that aren't at massive clubs. That's where Manchester United are looking, it seems. And I think Semenyo's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. All of a similar age range as well. I think Semenyo's 25, Cunha's 25 and Mbeumo's 25, all going into that prime age where you are going to get the best out of these players. You've got multiple years left out of them. They're going into the prime, but they've also got that experience. They've been around the block. They know the Premier League. They've put numbers up in the Premier League. They've been successful in the Premier League. And they've got that experience under the belts at these clubs that are fighting in the Premier League week in, week out. So it's something to absolutely take note of. I just don't get how we can afford it. How are you affording to go and spend, over 65 million on Cunha, another chunk of money on another number 10, a striker as well, and then apparently Atalanta want more than 42 million for Ederson. I just don't get how that's going to happen. But are we only going to invest in the forward line this summer? That could be a situation that Manchester United are at, because you look at the likes of Frimpong, highly likely to go to Liverpool this morning. When that news broke, I was gutted about it. I think Frimpong would be absolutely brilliant in an Amorim system as a wing-back. Honestly, I'm not one to question Arne Slot. He's just gone and won the Premier League with Liverpool when no one thought he was going to. But I look at it and I think, where is Frimpong going to play for them? I don't see him as a right-back in a back four in the Premier League. I see him as a wing-back. I think he'd be way more suited to us. But, he's literally there on a plate for 30-odd million. And United have ignored it. We're not really linked to any wing-backs at all. Are we just putting all of our eggs in the basket of getting more forward players in this summer? Is that why we're scrimping on the striker? Is that why we're going for 30 million Delap? Because we don't want to spend that extra 30 million because we want it to go towards another number 10. Get your comments in down below, get your thoughts in, but it is something to take note of, and it is something to definitely think about in terms of where Manchester United are actually going to put their money this summer. Chuff Bridge says, Amorim never played a De Jong type midfielder at Sporting. The closest is one that's likely available this summer. Paulina, cheap loan deal may be. I don't think so, to be honest with you. I don't think we're going to be doing loan deals this summer. Deck says, is Bruno Silence PR new move? It's like a new siding. I don't think so. I don't think anyone really expects Bruno Fernandes to leave and go to Saudi, do they? I spoke about on the show yesterday, the only way I think, well, this is a possibility, to be honest, because I don't think a lot of people have even processed what will happen to Manchester United if we do lose that final to Spurs. It will be disastrous. I've seen some people online say, I've seen United fans say, I wouldn't mind if we lost the final. The team doesn't deserve to play in Europe next year and we can just focus on the Premier League. Do you know how disastrous it'll be for this club if we lose that final? Money will... we're counting on the money from the from that Champions League qualification to go into our transfer budget to give Amorim players, for one. It's massive in terms of even all the revenue next season from the Champions League and being able to take... The reason why I'm bothered, obviously, I want every time Manchester United are competing for a trophy, I want us to win. I want us to win the trophy, of course I do. But I want Ruben Amorim to be backed. I massively want Ruben Amorim to be backed. And we will be in hot water financially if we do not win that Europa League. Honestly, we will be. So that's a big reason. And I want to be able to support Ruben Amorim in the transfer window. But the only way I see Bruno leaving Manchester United is if we lose that final to Spurs, which is very possible. They've beat us 3 times this season. He might think to himself, I'm 30, going on 31. I can go and get this massive chunk of money every week, and United probably aren't going to be competing again for another few years, where I'm going to be coming to the twilight stages of my career. And Manchester United, even though their message is, we want Bruno, we want to build around Bruno, and Bruno is our future of this rebuild under Amorim, they might think, hang on a second, we are in trouble, we don't have the money to support Amorim in this transfer window, where can we get money? Oh, hang on a second, Saudi are offering this much for Bruno. Maybe they might start thinking about it. And I don't want that to happen. I'm of the firm believer, as I said on yesterday's show, keep hold of your best players. And Amorim also is that believer as well, because he's made it clear to the board, to United, to Bruno, he's made it publicly clear that he wants Bruno staying at Manchester United. So I don't think it's a PR move. I don't think anyone expects Bruno to leave, but things might change very quickly if it's not all sunshine and rainbows come next Wednesday and we're waking up Thursday morning in 17th or 16th spot in the Premier League with no European football and a lack of money. A big lack of money. They're the super chats coming in. Brian also says, don't need a centre mid if Amorim wants to play Bruno there. We can keep Casemiro, Ugarte, Manu, Collier with Cunha and Delap on the list and a new centre mid for next summer. We also have... I've done them. I've done them chats. I keep getting told to do super chats. I've done them all. I've done the super chats, guys. Get more super chats in. Ari at MUFC says, Beth, you're not paying the full amount for the players. Even if you pay it in instalments, which is what Manchester United are doing, we're still, this summer, we're paying over 90 million in instalments on players we've already got that aren't performing. Sir Jim has come out in interviews and said that. We're still paying for Onana, we're still paying for Højlund, we're still paying for Mount. I think we're still paying for Sancho and Anthony at this rate. Honestly, we're still paying for players this summer that we've put on instalments anyway. So it's all right saying put it on instalments, but we were already paying instalments. We already are. And in terms of that super chat, I just want to touch on it again. There. Rob Always United says, I've missed your super chat. There is no super chat from you popping up unless my laptop's having me on. The one from Brian Gallagher saying, don't need a centre mid if Amorim wants to play Bruno there. We can keep Casemiro, Ugarte, Manu, Collier with Cunha and Delap on the list. New centre mid for next summer. That's what I was just getting onto, because if you do sign a Cunha as well as a Semenyo or an Mbumo or, you know, another player that we might end up getting linked to, Bruno absolutely plays like he does. So he drops into midfield then. Who plays next to him? Here's one. I'm thinking, hang on a second, my brain is, the cogs are turning as I'm on the show. But I'm thinking about it now. If you do get an Mbumo to play with Cunha and you do drop Bruno back into the midfield role, I tell you what, if Bruno's playing in the deep role in the pivot, Ederson becomes more and more understandable. Ederson really does become more and more understandable because he would make up massively for Bruno's deficiencies in that deeper role. Bruno can bring the ball out from the back. I know he's not a ball carrier, Bruno, but he is excellent on the ball, and if he plays more disciplined, he is good at finding them passes. He's tidy on the football. And then you have Ederson next to him. This might be why he's being targeted, who is just a monster in that midfield physically and can cover so much ground. And he's decent on the ball. He's not the best of the best on the ball, but he's decent on the ball. That makes more sense. And I think a lot of you guys will say, but what about Manu? But what about Ugarte? But what about Garnacho? But what about this player? What about that player? Manchester United are 16th in the Premier League, and our expected finish based on points last season was 15th. We overachieved last year from what we expected. We need this starting 11 completely rejigged and taken up multiple levels. There is starters that are starting for Manchester United that should be bench players. I will have absolutely zero issues whatsoever if we have Cunha, Mbumo and Ederson starting for us next year, and Bruno Fernandes is the only survivor, and the players we've got starting now have to fight out from the bench as a starting spot. One, it makes our bench just way better and of more quality. It makes our squad deeper, and it just gives Ruben Amorim much more quality to work with. At the end of the day, the players in that squad need a massive wake-up call, and if we're finishing 16th in the Premier League, maybe even 17th, you could argue the whole 11 needs changing. Like, you could argue that. So, you know, there's only very few players that I see as untouchable at Manchester United. There's players that I see that have quality, that can develop, that have potential, the word potential, but we shouldn't be worried about players going to the bench. We absolutely shouldn't. But I've seen comments coming in saying Beth actually thinking now, because I was thinking, you know, Ederson, I think Ederson's a quality player, I really do. But I just don't see a midfield pivot of him and Ugarte working at all. It doesn't have that press resistance. It doesn't have that technical ability that you would want. But if you have Bruno, and I know Bruno does lose the ball a lot, but I think he is different when he's playing in that number 8 compared to the number 10 in terms of how many risks he takes. And if he wants to be disciplined, he can. If you have Bruno there next to an Ederson, I do think them two would complement each other really well. I honestly do. But that brings Ugarte back to the bench, and you know he still will start games, but that's the whole point of having that competition for places. So it's all kind of starting to line up in my head now, but it's just where the money's coming from, because you're thinking about 50 million for Ederson. You're thinking about probably, 50 at least for Mbumo. If it's Semenyo, they've quoted him at 70. I don't think Bournemouth will get anything near 70 for him, but it'll be a big chunk of money. And then with the Cunha update that's coming in as well, that's kind of making sense now why we might be going for Delap, even though striker for me is if not the most important position. But that's why we might have to cut costs due to the other positions that we're really kind of fixated on, or Amorim might be fixated on as well. Noah Lalabati says, no to Semenyo. He's not creative. It's another selfish winger. His top stat is shots taken. Anything over 25 million is overpriced. Going to be honest, as much as I really do like Semenyo, I'll have my opinion on that. As much as I really like Semenyo, he would not be my ideal number 10 to bring into Manchester United. I think he's doing great at Bournemouth. I think his stats are good. But for me, I'd go Mbeumo all day long over Semenyo, all day long. Alex Marman says, if we lose to Spurs, I will feel like crying. It'll be a financial disaster for us and we'll probably lose Bruno along with homegrown players. Exactly. You know, when you hear people saying, this is what this squad deserves, you know, we might have to lose the Europa League final. What? Are you a United fan? If we lose the Europa League final, it could have two of your best players gone in the summer, Manu and Bruno. That could genuinely happen. And, you know, some people might want that. But my opinion, and I will sit here and stand by it, a lot of this squad needs to go. A lot of this squad needs to go. But please, please, please keep hold of your best players. Keep hold of your best players. There is some quality in there. Yoro, Ahmad, Bruno. I think Manu is quality. I know he's not doing it at the moment. Like, keep hold of your best players, and the rest need to go first, and we might be forced into selling some of our best players if we don't have the money. Jason Hanna says, Beth, if Bruno wants to leave, we have to let him go. Yeah, if he wants to, of course we have to. If he wants to, of course we have to. But he's not stated he wants to yet. Glazers Out says, what if Garnacho goes to Napoli and scores 20 goals a season? Are we going to blame the manager and management for selling him? Because he's had a lot of chances at United and hasn't delivered. Sometimes these are the risks you take. I actually wouldn't be, you know, first in line to sell Garnacho. I think if we bring in Cunha and an Mbeumo, I think he has to kind of go on the for sale list. But if he does go to Napoli and smashes it, very well done to him. I'll be very happy for him. Like I said, sometimes different players work out under different managers in different environments in different clubs. Doesn't make Manchester United wrong for selling him and cashing him. It doesn't. Like, Scott McTominay is absolutely killing it for Napoli now. A lot of Manchester United fans thought it was the right time for him to go. You know, should we not have sold him? You could argue he actually would have been really successful in an Amorim system with his physicality. I have actually heard, and I've not brought this up on the show because, again, like, I'm not claiming to have top tier sources. I have heard that Amorim was gutted that we'd sold McTominay in the summer. He was fuming about it when he got the job. But these are things that happen sometimes in football. Do you think, you know, City fans are probably shouldn't have sold Cole Palmer? No. But sometimes this happens, and if a player's not getting the game time he wants, or you're at a different phase. United aren't in the phase now where we can wait around for youngsters to get to that level. Of course, we want them there for the future, and I get why we invest into youth, because you want to, you know, keep recycling success over and over again, and you want to build for the future. But United are 16th. We need players now that are ready. We need players now that are ready to go and compete and get Manchester United up the table and compete seriously. That's what we need. And also, I still stand by the fact, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Look at Lenny Yoro. He's absolutely insane. He's 19. He's good enough and he's old enough. Ahmad's 22. Levels above anything else that we've got at United. And I get that Højlund's young and Garnacho are young. And I think Garnacho actually has massively improved recently. But still, you know, they're still not quite at the level that I would want Manchester United forward players to be. And they might need a little bit more help. They might need a little bit more time. They might need going to that bench and being them super subs to develop and grow. Can United afford to keep them to do that? Will they have to cash in? That's the decision the board has to make and the fan base has to make and see if they're comfortable with that. Got this coming in now. Okay, here we go. For some reason, not all my super chats are showing up, so I've been sent them. Sorry about that, guys. Rob Always United says, I don't think Ederson is much of an improvement. Like I was saying, I think he is an improvement on Ugarte. I think he's better than Ugarte. But it just depends what midfielders Amorim's going to play next season. If he's going to play Bruno as a deep line midfielder, then I can understand why I would go for Ederson. if he's going to play Ugarte is a deep line midfielder, we need to bring somebody else in to play next to him. We need to bring in that press-resistant deep line midfielder, like a Wharton type figure. Mr. Bruno says, sorry Beth, midfield is not the priority. We should be all over for a top proper striker. I agree we should be all over for a top proper striker, but there's only so many times I can come on the show and say Delap is our priority and we're ignoring Gyökeres and Osimhen. That's the situation United are in. I don't think it's how a club that should be fighting to get back to the top of the Premier League should be moving in that area of the pitch. You know, United, the past United teams that have been super successful and dominant have always had a top striker. I think United need one of them. Delap might be able to do it in the future, but sure as hell now isn't that. We just got to hope it works out. But it's one that baffles me and I don't agree with. Anyway, any more super chats that are coming in? I want to bring the Cunha update in because I promised you that for a while now, and this comes on to the Amorim completely reshaping that front three. And let's run a poll in the chat. Let's run a poll. And I don't know how to word this poll right, but someone messaged me on X the other day and said, Beth, I think we can compromise on going for a Delap at 30 million if we have Cunha and Mbeumo behind him, if we have two quality number 10s. Cunha and Mbeumo, I don't think we're going to get him, but I know a lot of people are fans of Cherki as well. Cunha and Cherki, two quality number 10s in behind. I'm obviously team Mbeumo, I really like him, but they think that'd be strong enough because you can distribute, the goals between them three, and they're all three, maybe Delap's going to score you quite a few goals. He's done it for Ipswich this season in the Premier League, but he might not be that 20-goal-a-season striker. I don't think he's ready to be that yet. But Cunha and Mbeumo can make up for that. Basically what they were saying, if you get another quality number 10 in, alongside Delap, it can kind of make up for the fact we're not going for like an Osimhen or a Gyökeres that's going to guarantee you. So if you have two number 10s in behind Delap, is that going to be strong enough for Manchester United going in next season? Two new number 10s is what I'm trying to say. So this is the Cunha update, because I was getting a little bit worried. And I've just seen a super chat in here, actually, not a super chat, sorry, a normal chat from Marcus saying Osimhen has the swagger of United legend. I'm gutted we're not going in for Osimhen. I really am. I know a lot of people talk about wages, but I agree. I think he does have that swagger, that arrogance that you've seen past United legends have, like a Cantona. Like he has that about him. I think he'd kill it at United. I think he's got the self-confidence. I think he's a winner. I think he's a top quality player. Guess what? Sometimes you have to pay a little bit extra for the best. And his fees I think his release clause is what, like 62.5 million that you can get him out for, around 63 million. He's worth more than that. I'm gutted we're not going for him. I really am. I think Manchester United are massively dropping the ball. He screams a United signing for me. I think they're massively dropping the ball, and I think we're acting like a small club by not going for him. Just putting it out there, I'm going to be honest. But the Cunha update. This is coming on from Brazilian sources. We've had a lot of good stuff come through Brazilian sources regarding Cunha. And obviously we know Cunha is Brazilian, so that link does seem to be working. Manchester United are expected to pay Cunha's release clause of 62.5 million, plus an extra 5 million in add-ons. Despite late interest from Arsenal, talks are moving forward. And we heard this the other day, didn't we, that Arsenal made another play late doors. And as United fans, we started to bloody worry, didn't we? Let's be honest. Because if you look at United and you look at Arsenal are bottlers, have not won trophies in, God, how many years has it been now? And United at the worst just keep getting to finals and would have won trophies. I mean, we know it's wild, isn't it? But what they are going to be doing is playing in the Champions League next season, and they have got a better squad than us, and they are in a better position to go and win a Premier League than us. They have come close the last few seasons. So Arsenal can be an attractive prospect for players that want to... Arsenal are the nearly men, and if they get a top striker and do good recruitment this summer, they could very easily be back in a title race for the Premier League and be competing in the Champions League again. Competing for the top trophy. So naturally, as United sitting in 16th and, got a lot resting on one final, are worried that Cunha's going to go, actually, I might go to Arsenal. However, from this source, talks are moving forward, and I think that can be a few reasons. One, because I think he's got a perfect position for him in the Amorim system as that left-sided 10. Where does he actually play at Arsenal? Does he play on the left wing? Does he play up front? They're going to go for a striker. Does he play just in behind? I know Odegaard's having a stinker. I don't know if he's got an absolutely nailed down position. I do think he'd start for Arsenal, but I just don't know what his nailed down position would be. Whereas at United, he's absolutely going to come in and start straight away, and he's going to be a mainstay in that team, in my opinion. I also have heard he's had very positive talks with Ruben Amorim. Amorim really likes him and has, a vision for him. That can also help with selling the project, that connection to the manager. I know Arsenal were close in January to sign him, then they kind of I think Arteta backed off a bit because he was worried about the discipline and the red cards. Now they've gone back in. As a player, I think you want a manager that's all for you. And Amorim does seem to be very, very strong on Cunha. Especially in South America, Manchester United, the name Manchester United still holds a lot of weight. We are starting to lose that year by year, especially finishing 16th. Our reputation does start to go down, but we do still have the We're Manchester United pull. And also, Manchester United could be in the Champions League. I'm worried that we was like, a few weeks ago, it was like, we're nearly here we go. Reports from Romano and Ben Jacobs that we're very close to this deal and Cunha doesn't care if we've got Champions League football or not. Suddenly Arsenal are sniffing around again and it seems like it's stalled. It feels like next Wednesday, if we lose the Europa League, suddenly, maybe you might think differently and he might think, what, Champions League might matter to me. But let's see what happens. According to this source, we are moving forward. We are still heavily in talks with Cunha and it is progressing and it does look like we're going to sign him. However, what I thought was interesting about this update, Klarna FC strikes again. It's not mentioned in the report, but if true... Oh, wait. This is the message that I got sent. It's not mentioned in the report, but if true, it's likely as a means of spreading the cost of instalments instead of paying the full 62.5 million up front, similar to Xerxes last summer. So that's from that report, 62.5 million plus an extra 5 million in add-ons. Why would you pay an extra 5 million in add-ons if the release clause is 62.5 million? Similar to the deal like we did with Xerxes last summer, we're kind of doing our detective work here. It doesn't necessarily state that in the report, but this is the only reason I can think of. With Xerxes, he had a release clause. Manchester United ended up paying more money because they wanted to pay it in instalments instead of paying the full release clause straight away. It feels like that's what we're going to do with Cunha, and maybe this is why it's delayed a little bit. We don't want to pay 62.5 million straight up to Wolves. We want to pay the release clause, but we want to pay it in instalments. Well, if you're going to do that, we're going to add a little bit of interest on. We're going to have to pay this. Agent might want a bit. So United are going to have to pay a little bit extra to do it in instalments. That is what I see with this deal. That might be why it's stalling. Also, Cunha might be waiting to see the result of next Wednesday. I hope, whether we win it or not, we do get Cunha in. And I do think this deal is going to happen. I don't see another club managing to skew this deal now. But the more time goes on, the more I do get worried, because I think he'd be such a good signing for Amorim, and I would be gutted if somebody else stole that signing from us and kind of leaked in at the last minute. Get your votes in the poll. With 2 proper 10s, can United afford to sign Delap instead of a more experienced striker? It's a tough one for me, that, because I think United should be doing all of the above. I really do. We've got a long way to go to get back to the top. I think we should be signing a proper experienced striker and 2 10s, but I know money doesn't grow on trees and I know we're in a very financially precarious situation. Brian Gallagher says Mainu will have to be sold if we want any midfield signing. Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Brian, because Eriksen's going to go, but there's no way Mount's going. One, he's picked up a bit of form, but and Amorim loves him. He seems to be ahead of the pecking order to Mainu, whether you see that as right or wrong. But 2, because there's no way we're going to get any buys in for him. We've only recently paid 60 million for him. Mount's not going anywhere. I think Casemiro's going to see out the last year of his deal on 350 grand a week. I think it's quite obvious that that's going to happen, so he's not going to go. Bruno, hopefully, he's going to stay. So I think Mainu will stay. But, we know what United are like. They're already cost-cutting on the trophy parade and doing a barbecue at Carrington. They might see Mainu and Garnacho and their, money symbols might light up. And that's another reason as to why I want to win the Europa League, because I don't want us to be in a position where we have to sell young academy graduates. I want to be in a position where we can choose to if we think it's best for the squad. If Amorim sits there in the summer and thinks, you know what, I've got Mbumo, I've got Cunha, I've got these players, I think, you know, I don't know if we're going to need you, Garnacho. I think, you know, probably best for us to part ways and maybe invest that money into a midfielder. Fair, absolutely fair play, fair enough. That's Amorim's decision. I don't want it to be in a situation where, oh, yeah, I don't really want to sell you, but in order to get any sort of signings in, I'm going to have to. I'd rather it be a choice rather than being forced into it. And I don't want to sign Manu. I don't even want to entertain the thought of selling Manu. You know, that academy graduate, been at United since a little kid, Manchester through and through. He's got so much talent, and just because he's, you know, maybe not been at his best for the last few months, people are okay with selling a 20-year-old with buckets and buckets of potential and talent. That doesn't sit right with me, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Jason Hanna says, Cherky for 25 million is a great deal for a player with his quality, and Manchester United should snap him up for that price. Depends if we can sell Rashford or Anthony. Or I think we will. Also, Yeri's a brilliant price, especially, I think he's only 21. Brilliant price for absolute quality, so technically good. When you talk about getting players that can play possession-based football and become quality in front of goal, Cherky definitely ticks them boxes. For the price, he's fantastic. But I've said it on yesterday's show, United often miss obvious transfers that would be good signings. Liverpool seem to always do him. United seem to always miss him. Ait-Nouri, year left on his deal, gonna go in the summer, switch his agency. Wing-back, Premier League proven, goals and assists. Open goal, why have we not looked at him at all? And Cherky's another one where is that position we need. He's got qualities and he's cheap and he's young, and we just don't seem to be looking at it. Malp says, Beth, if you be invited to the United barbecue with the manager and the players. Not quite got my invite through yet. I've heard that paying for a stamp, an envelope, was a little bit too much. So they might be sending it through pigeon carrier, so I might receive it in 2 to 3 working days. Brian Gallagher says, does Amorim lose support if he signs off selling Garnacho and or Manu? Not from me. I think a lot of the recruitment is down to the recruitment team rather than Amorim himself, but I honestly am putting all my trust into Amorim. I might be a fool, I might be naive, but I am. Whatever Amorim wants, I want to invest on or back into this manager. Based off what he's done at Sporting, its previous clubs, I think he knows best what is right for him and his system and how to move this club forward. So even if he says, you know what, even if he says, I think we should sell Manu in the summer, I don't think he will. I don't think Amorim will, because I think he's an intelligent manager and he will understand the qualities that Manu has. I think he's just waiting to progress him. I think he's 20. I think he's going to take time to progress to the physical demands that Ruben Amorim expects. But I think he will be there. And I think Amorim will see that potential in him, and I don't think Amorim will want to sell him. But if he did, I'd say I think it's a mistake, but I'd have to back with what the manager wants, because I really do want Amorim to succeed, and I do believe in him. And on that note, God, I was saying before, I'm only going to do a 25-minute show today. I've just gone on and on and on, haven't I? Just love speaking to you guys so much. I love the community. But I wanted to read this out. I really wanted to read this out. Also, just quickly, I'll get the transfer news out the way. And this is coming from Simon Stone. And he was speaking to the BBC about Manchester United's goalkeeper targets. Royal Antwerp's Seny Laarmans is a name I hear quite often, so I won't be surprised if Manchester United go near him. Now, Seny Laarmans is 6'4", and he's only 22 years old, a young goalkeeper that apparently Manchester United are scouting, and I can't say I know anything about him. I looked a little bit online before I did the show, and I heard a lot of good things. I need to do more research before I can fully kind of go into his strengths, his weaknesses. But apparently he's very good at shot stopping, and his reflexes are excellent as well. You would hope so for a keeper. A towering presence at 6'4", physically dominant, excels in aerial duels, claims high balls with authority. Apparently he's great acrobatic saves, and he's a good modern young goalkeeper, one to watch. So that's something to keep an eye on. Simon Stone, usually very reliable, and wouldn't say something unless there was a lot of credit to it. So keep an eye on that name for Manchester United. Dex says, love to see the owners stub their toe on the barbecue. Okay, that's a bit far. We're not inciting violence on anyone. Anyway, let me read this out because I really, really wanted to read this out on the show and bring it to you guys. Let me get it up here. I saved it before so I could read it out. Okay. So this is for people that are doubting Amorim and doubting whether Amorim should have investment from Manchester United in the summer based off obviously finishing where we are this season since he's come into the club. This was a message that got sent to a big United account, Amorim Era, and he kindly put it out on his X account, and I wanted to read it out because I think a lot of United fans need to hear this. Like, I'm not saying take this as gospel, take of it what you will, but I really enjoyed this read, so I will read it to you guys. So, this is the message he received. I'm going to message you because I now follow a few Manchester United accounts and you are one of my favourite ones. Amorim Era must be buzzing. I know you back Amorim, but I need to tell you a couple of things about him so you have a bit more insights and knowledge about who this manager really is. First of all, you need to understand this man. Despite being a Benfica fan all of his life, he's the most important person that Sporting have had in the footballing department in the past 40 to 50 years. We came from 3 titles in 40 years, 3, and this man set us up for 3 in 5 years. Second, you need to understand how this man works. He's a leader. He uses leadership by connecting with the players. Sporting players gave their lives on the pitch for this guy. Check out his last match with us, 4-2 to Sporting over Braga. Our second/third most important player, Pedro Gonzalez, played injured just because he wanted to play for Amorim's last match. He ended up being injured for the next 5 months. A lot of this important connection with the players happens in the summer. Amorim always takes the team for 2 to 3 weeks in the summer and he just builds a team from there. We don't know how he does it, but when the season starts, the players just look at each other as family. The environment you feel in the locker room is something you have never seen before. This is another reason why he needs time, and it's always why that comment saying, what kind of manager needs 8 to 10 players to win matches? Trust me, he does not need that. He needs to win the locker room. He needs a summer to implant on them the idea that they can win against anyone, and he will do exactly that. Lastly, understand that Amorim is much more than a coach. He's a proper boss/manager. He will restructure the whole club. It's very important that people understand this. At Sporting, he made us a winning team by improving much more than the main squad. He improved the scouting, the staff, the youth teams. He created his own performance team. He simply changed this club from one point to the other. He went to Manchester to do exactly that. You can believe me when I say that if it was an invitation from Real Madrid in that exact moment, he wouldn't have left Sporting that way. He wanted that exact context of Manchester United. He wanted to grab a club with massive potential and completely change it. And he will do just that. Keep backing the guy. Don't trust the nonsense of him needing lots of players or money. Just look at his first few months at Sporting. He was the 4th coach that season. We finished 4th. The next season, first match, we lost 4-1 against Last Linz and missed the Europa League qualification. He then grabbed a couple of youngsters, hired Pedro Porro and a couple of guys he had at Braga and proceeded to win our first title in 19 years. The rest is history. So, obviously a big read that, but I wanted to bring it into the show because I thought, you know, when you get that context from someone who followed Amorim all throughout his career at Sporting, I think it's worth taking a note. The only thing I'm not sure about is if he would have rejected Real Madrid, because Real Madrid are Real Madrid and you would have walked into a team that's going to go and win he's capable of winning Champions League and the League. I'm not sure about that, but he says Amorim thrives off getting a club with massive potential and turn it into what it's capable of. And I honestly really, it made me, I already backed Amorim, but it made me really look forward to the pre-season with Amorim and what he can instill into the players we've got and what he can do when he does that squad overhaul and brings new players in to create that family. And somebody commented underneath it as well, saying how badly this squad was fractured when Amorim came through the door. The dressing room is in tatters, and he's going to need a lot of time to rebuild this club, and I think we need to stick by him. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I know that's so cliche to say, but it's so true. Good stuff takes time, takes patience. I mean, I saw this graphic the other day, and it's a guy with, like, he was mining, and he'd mined all this way, and obviously you can't see what's in front of you, and he'd gone all this way, but he'd give up because he hadn't got to the diamonds yet, and the diamonds were just here, but he didn't know that because he couldn't see them, and he began to walk back. The guy below him just kept going and going and going. He eventually got to the diamonds, and the other guy turned back and gone. By the time he'd got back, the other guy had got to the diamonds. You know, good stuff sometimes takes time, and it might not work out, but I really want to trust in Amorim and look at what he's done at Sporting. They were in a bad position by their standards, and he's completely revolutionised that club. And I know Manchester United's a different kettle of fish, but I really hope he can do the same thing. Anyway, guys, Brian Gallagher says, I can see Jim melting the players' Europa League gold medals to sell for extra cash. Oh my gosh, they just keep coming, don't they? But look, everyone, thank you very much for watching. I'll love you and leave you for now. It is sunny here in Manchester. I'm going to go and get some fresh air, think about United some more, and keep manifesting that Europa League win next Wednesday. We've got loads of great content coming for you before that Europa League win. Any other transfer updates, I will bring them to the show for you, or Goldbridge will. Thanks for watching, everyone. Smash a like on the video, and I will see you on the next one.